Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Favey, and in this presentation I'm going to be going over promising approaches to integrating technology into early childhood learning contexts. So, technology as a whole is becoming increasingly prominent in the world and also equally accessible. So, all age groups are able to have this technology, and we're really seeing it in some of those younger ages that they're having a lot of use and accessibility to it at home. And as a teacher, it is very vital in order to be flexible and ready to keep the students on the forefront of learning. And right now, that really means including technology. So, for the purpose of the review that I wrote, as well as this presentation, it is assumed that technology is more beneficial than detrimental to children and students. And that leads us into the main question that this is revolved around, and that is, what are the most promising approaches to integrating technology into early childhood learning contexts? So as a quick overview, this presentation will talk about 3 different types of technologies, which are photojournals, mobile devices, and augmented reality. And all of these technology integration will be across different types of student learning. So we'll be looking at social and cognitive reflection, literacy learning, numeric literacy learning, which is pretty much early math concepts, and dramatic play. So first, we are going to look at photojournals in early childhood contexts, and we're going to see them in social and cognitive reflection as well as literacy learning. So first, looking at social and cognitive reflection, this information comes from the Carter-Ching et al. 2006 article, and in the article, it described a study that included 25 children from a kindergarten first grade classroom at a university-affiliated school. And in this study, the children had one digital camera that they shared and took photographs of their classroom and their peers in their classroom. And then once they took the photographs, a researcher would help them upload the images onto the desktop computer, and they would select which images they wanted in their journal, and then they would caption them appropriately. So within the study, the children showed a lot of enjoyment and enthusiasm when completing the study, and within embracing the role as the photographer, the children seemed to gain access and empowerment within their classroom community. So now looking at the literacy learning aspect, this comes from a Pelletier et al. 2006 article, and this study included 2 different groups of children. One was 22 4-year-olds from the ICS laboratory school at the University of Toronto, and 25-year-olds at a neighboring school. And the ICS children selected photographs and scanned them to a desktop computer, where they then had help rearranging the photographs and adding captions to them that shared their ideas and their thoughts about the images. And the alternative group did not have technology, and they only used the photographs, the pen, and the paper. So looking at early reading results, both scores had major improvements between the pre-tests and the post-tests. However, the ICS group that had technology scored significantly better and higher between the 2 tests, as opposed to the alternative group that did not have the technology. And similarly, looking at the early writing results, both groups still had higher scores on the post-tests. However, the ICS group had a greater gains in scores for early writing development. So looking at mobile devices in early childhood contexts, we are going to see it for numeric literacy learning and for literacy learning. So we have 2 different studies that were used for numeric literacy learning, and that is a Disney et al. 2019 article and a Moafi and Abu Mahfouz 2021 article. In both of these studies, applications were used at different parts of the day and at the free will of the children, where one of them had 5 different applications selected for 80 children, and another one was colored maps with QR codes among 34 children. And in both of the studies, between the pre-tests and the post-tests, all of the scores in the numeracy areas examined improved. So for one of them, that included all 5 numeracy areas, which is numeral identification, counting, arithmetic problems, shape identification, and patterns. And for the other one, it looked at numeric literacy and quantifying skills, as well as spatial relationships and patterns. So overall, within both of the studies, it was seen that their numeracy abilities increased as a result of using the technologies. Looking at mobile devices for literacy learning, we're going to look at a Liu et al. 2017 article and a Hutchinson et al. 2012 article. Now, for the Liu et al. Article, it was a case study that examined 4 different classrooms between kindergarten and first grade to see successful types of integration. And all of the rooms used technology at a learning stations period of the day where the children had 10 to 15 minutes to work on certain applications to practice their literacy skills, as well as during certain transition times of the day. And within that study, it was deemed that the iPad was integrated in developmentally appropriate ways for the children. And then looking at the Hutchinson et al. Article, it followed a 4th grade teacher and her 23 students, and that study was finding a way to integrate the technologies into pre-existing lesson plans in order to enhance the curriculum. And the teacher used technologies such as iBooks, Poplet, Doodle Buddy, Strip Designer, and Sendry Notes. And it was found that these technologies and applications allowed the students to better visualize different aspects of the lessons, and it really did enhance the pre-existing curriculum. So looking at augmented reality in early childhood contexts, we are going to look at it for literacy learning as well as for dramatic play. So seeing it for literacy learning, we are going to first examine a Pan et al. 2021 article. And in this study, the students that were in the study were 76 pre-kindergartners, where 40 of them were set in an experimental group and 36 were in the control group. And for the AR experience for the experimental group, they had a headset, a book, and an application on an iPad, where when they were reading the book, they could scan various pages and an augmented reality animation would pop up with each of the pages that corresponded to the letter on the page. And the book was an alphabet book. And then on the last page of the book, it sang an alphabet song and showed each of the letters of the alphabet. Now, the control group did not have access to the AR portion. They just simply had the book without the additional animations. And it was found that the integration of the augmented reality piece was effective in increasing the students' rapid letter naming skills, and it was also seen that the student motivation increased. Looking at the Chen and Chan 2019 article, similarly, the study used augmented reality flashcards looking at 2 different groups, a experimental and a control group, where when scanned by a mobile device, a 3D graphic would appear that would correlate to the image on the flashcard. And looking at the pre-test and post-tests, significant gains and progress in vocabulary learning scores were seen in both of the groups. So both the group that had the AR as well as the group that did not have the AR. And then looking at augmented reality in dramatic play. So we're going to look at the Han et al. 2015 article. And within that study, 2 different types of augmented reality were used in the kindergarten classroom. The first one was a computer, and the second was a robot. So within the implementation, the children had coded hats that sat on their head, where the device was able to scan the hat and as well as track their facial expressions, and the robot was able to create its own facial expressions, sound effects, and change the body movement on the image according to what the children were doing. So for overall engagement, it was found that the students had higher engagement when working with the robot as opposed to just the computer. And then looking at the Leonin article, it used the Anscape AR Sandbox, which is a 3-dimensional surface with sand on it, and when the children played with the sand, a camera would shoot different colors according to the different depths of the sand. And this really looked at soft skill collaboration, and it was seen that the collaboration increased with the integration of the augmented reality piece. as a quick conclusion, I found that the majority of the literature and research covered technology integration into literacy learning, and there were very little evidence or literature for other content areas such as math, science, social studies, and social emotional. So, as a next step, I would like to conduct research in a lesser explored content area, such as science or social studies, using mobile applications, since the mobile applications allowed for the most freedom and exploration for implementation and use. And then here is just a quick view of some of the references that I used. If you would like to explore them further, you can always pause the presentation. But thank you so much for listening. Bye.